My name is Margaret Thompson. I am 68 years old, and for 6 straight years, I poured every cent I had, every tear I cried, and every dream I postponed into one single hope: that my only daughter, Emily, would finally hold the baby she had wanted since she was 12 years old. Emily was 34 when she and her husband Ryan sat me down in my little kitchen and told me the doctor had said their only chance was IVF. $23,000 per cycle. 3 cycles minimum. They had already maxed out 2 credit cards, and Ryan's 401k was gone. Emily looked at me with those big hazel eyes that used to beg for one more bedtime story and said, "Mom, if you could just help us a little." A little turned into everything. I sold the paid-off Honda I had driven for 15 years. I canceled the Alaskan cruise I had saved for since my husband died. I took an extra cleaning job at the hospital on weekends. I stopped buying coffee, new clothes, even birthday cards for friends because every single dollar had a new name: Grace. That's what they were going to call her if it ever worked. Round 1 failed. Round 2 failed. Round 3, the blood test came back positive. Emily screamed so loud on the phone, I dropped the mop water all over the hospital hallway. I cried in the supply closet for 20 minutes while strangers walked past. I paid for the private maternity clinic, the one with the water birth tub and the lavender-scented towels. I paid for the 4D ultrasounds they printed and framed. I paid for the $3,800 stroller that looked like a spaceship. I paid the $28,000 deposit on the 4-bedroom house so Grace would have a yard to play in. I paid the night nanny for the entire first year because Emily said she couldn't function without sleep, and Ryan traveled for work. Every month, like clockwork, Ryan would text, "Can you send $4,200 today? The mortgage is due and the nanny's paycheck bounced." And I sent it every single time. I never once asked to be repaid. I told myself, this is what mothers do. This is what love looks like. I kept every receipt. I kept every text message. I kept a little notebook where I wrote the exact amount and the date and the reason they gave. By the time Grace was born, the notebook had 112 pages. The day Emily went into labor, I sat by my landline for 14 hours. I had my overnight bag packed. I had washed the little pink blanket I knitted myself. I had practiced the route to the hospital so many times I could drive it blindfolded. No one called. At 11:47 p.m., I saw the first photo on Instagram. Emily in a silk robe, Ryan cutting the cord, the caption, "Our miracle is here." I called. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I drove to the hospital anyway. The security guard at the maternity ward checked the list and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, you're not on the approved visitor list." I stood there holding that pink blanket like an idiot until a nurse took pity and let me sit in the waiting room. At 3 a.m., Ryan walked past me carrying 2 coffees. He saw me, stopped for half a second, then kept walking. 3 days later, the Sip and See party photos went up. 87 guests. My sister Diane holding Grace. My cousin Linda kissing her forehead. Even Emily's college roommate from California was there. I zoomed in on every single picture looking for my own face. I wasn't in any of them. When I finally showed up at their new house with a teddy bear the size of my torso, Emily opened the door exactly 8 inches. "Mom, We're keeping things very small right now. Only immediate family is meeting Grace for the first month. Doctor's orders, you understand, right? Immediate family. I stood on that porch, feeling the teddy bear's plastic eyes stare into my soul. I heard the laughter inside. I smelled the catered barbecue I had paid for, and I said the only thing I could manage. Of course, honey, whatever you need. I drove home and threw up in my own driveway. For the next 2 weeks, I waited for the call that never came. I watched Grace grow on Instagram. First smile, first bath, first outing in the $3,800 stroller. Every caption, #blessed, #mommylife, #family is everything. Then the night nanny quit. Emily showed up at my door at 9 p.m. with unwashed hair and panic in her eyes. Ryan waited in the car. "Emily, we're desperate. We need another $4,000 a month until Grace sleeps through the night. We can't function. You can't abandon your granddaughter now." I looked past her at Ryan scrolling on his phone in the driver's seat. I looked at the manicured nails I had paid for. I looked at the diamond earrings I had bought Emily for push present, and I smiled the coldest smile of my life. I only help immediate family, Emily, and apparently that's not me anymore. The silence was so thick you could have spread it on toast. Emily's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Then the screaming started. "How dare you? After everything we've been through, you're punishing your own granddaughter?" I closed the door while she was still mid-sentence. I locked it. I leaned against it and slid to the floor and cried for the first time in years, not because I was sad, but because I was finally awake. That night, I did 3 things. I opened the notebook with the 112 pages. I took photos of every single page. And I changed my Wi-Fi password to not immediate family. The war began the next morning. First, they tried guilt. Hundreds of text messages. "You're breaking your mother's heart. Grace will grow up without a grandmother. This is elder abuse." Then they tried public shame. Emily posted a tearful video on Facebook. "My mom has cut us off completely right after we had a baby. Please pray for us." It got 40,000 views and $11,000 in GoFundMe donations before someone in the comments posted a screenshot of Emily's Instagram from 2 weeks earlier, champagne brunch, with the caption, "Living our best life." Then they went nuclear. A social worker showed up at my door with a clipboard. "We've had reports that you're showing signs of cognitive decline and possible financial self-neglect." Translation: Emily and Ryan had filed with Adult Protective Services. I invited the social worker in, made her tea, and handed her the notebook. She read for 45 minutes without speaking. When she left, she said, "Mrs. Thompson, you are the most organized person I've met all year. I'm closing this case." But they didn't stop. They hired a lawyer who specialized in elder guardianship cases. They broke into my house while I was at the grocery store. They still had the spare key I gave them years ago and photographed my bank statements, my will, even my medicine cabinet. I came home to find Ryan at my kitchen table with a man in a $3,000 suit. Emily was crying in the living room. "Mom, this is Mr. Caldwell. He's here to help you manage your money more safely. You've been acting so erratic." The lawyer slid a power of attorney across the table. "Just sign here, Margaret. It's only temporary." I looked at the pen. I looked at the man who used to call me Mom when he needed plane tickets.
I looked at my daughter, who hadn't said "I love you" unless it came after "Can you send?" and I laughed. I laughed so hard I had to sit down. Then I tore the document into confetti and said, "Get out of my house before I call the police." They laughed, but the real fight was just beginning. 3 weeks later, I received court papers. Petition for emergency guardianship of Margaret Ann Thompson. Reason? Sudden personality change, paranoia, refusal to assist vulnerable grandchild, installation of unnecessary security systems. They attached affidavits from Ryan's cousin, who I'd met twice, their nanny, who I'd never spoken to, and a psychiatrist they paid $10,000 to say I was exhibiting signs consistent with early dementia because I refused a voluntary evaluation. I sat on my kitchen floor and cried again, but this time the tears had teeth. I hired the best elder law attorney in the state. Her name was Vanessa Reed, and the first thing she said was, "Margaret, they picked the wrong grandma to mess with." We built a war chest, 6 years of bank records, the notebook with 112 pages, screenshots of every begging text, the Instagram photos from the party I wasn't invited to, a timeline showing they spent $18,000 on home renovations the same month they claimed they couldn't afford diapers, character witnesses, my pastor, my doctor, my neighbors, even the barista who said I still tipped $5 on a $2 coffee. The court date was set for November 14th. I bought a new black suit. I got my hair done for the first time in 4 years. I walked into that courtroom looking like a woman who had nothing left to lose, because I didn't. Emily took the stand first. Oscar-worthy performance. Tears, trembling voice, the works. She talked about how close we used to be, how I changed overnight, how I was hurting an innocent baby. Vanessa cross-examined. "Mrs. Hayes, when was the last time you called your mother without asking for money?" We talked about lots of things. Can you name one conversation in the last 2 years that didn't involve a transfer from her account to yours?
Mrs. Hayes, isn't it true you told your mother she wasn't immediate family and banned her from meeting her granddaughter? That was taken out of context. What is the correct context for telling the woman who financed your child's existence that she's not family? The judge leaned forward. You could almost hear the mask cracking. Ryan was worse. He actually said, "My mother-in-law has always been generous. We just want to make sure she's protected from making rash decisions." Vanessa played the jury. Well, the judge. A voicemail he left me 2 months earlier. "If you don't send the $4,200 today, we're going to lose the house and it'll be your fault Grace grows up in an apartment." Their paid psychiatrist crumbled when Vanessa showed my full medical file. Perfect blood pressure, perfect cognitive test scores, and a note from my oncologist that said patient sharper than most 40-year-olds. Then our witnesses took the stand. My neighbor Donna told the court she watched me become a ghost, working 3 jobs while Emily posted vacation photos. My doctor testified I was in perfect mental health. Even the cashier from the grocery store said, "Margaret still remembers my daughter's birthday every year. That woman is not confused." I was last. I walked to the stand carrying the pink blanket I knitted, now faded from being washed 100 times with no baby to wrap it in. "Your Honor," I began, "I sold my car so my daughter could have a baby. I ate canned soup for dinner so my granddaughter could have organic pears. I never asked for a thank you. I only asked to hold her once. They decided I wasn't immediate family. So I decided something too. Love is not a blank check. Love is not a spare key they keep until they don't need it anymore. Love is not banning your mother from meeting the miracle she paid for. I am not confused. I am not paranoid. I am awake, and I choose me. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear people breathing. The judge ruled in 12 minutes. Petition denied with prejudice. Mrs. Thompson is not only competent, she is the most competent person involved in this sorry affair. I'm also awarding her court costs and filing a referral to the DA for possible financial elder abuse. Emily screamed. Ryan turned white. Their lawyer started packing his briefcase like it was on fire. As we walked out, Emily grabbed my arm in the hallway. "Mom, please, we'll lose the house. Grace will suffer. You can't do this to your own flesh and blood." I looked at her hand on my sleeve, then at her face. "Emily, the day you told me I wasn't immediate family, you stopped being my flesh and blood. You became my creditors, and creditors don't get to touch me anymore." I pulled my arm away and walked into the November sunlight feeling lighter than I had in 20 years. 3 weeks later, I did 4 things. I sold the 4-bedroom house they were counting on inheriting. I donated half the proceeds, $285,000, to an IVF grant foundation for low-income couples. I bought a tiny turquoise cottage on the North Carolina coast with cash. I changed my will. Everything else goes to the same foundation and to the local animal shelter because the dogs never asked me to prove I was immediate family before they loved me. Every month, on the 17th, Grace's birthday, I mail 1 postcard to their address. Just a photo of the ocean at sunrise and 1 sentence on the back. "The sea doesn't keep score, sweetheart. When you're old enough to ask why your grandmother lives by the water, come find me. I'll be the lady in the turquoise house who kept every promise she never asked you to keep." I sign it simply, Nana Margaret. I don't know if the cards get thrown away. I don't know if Grace will ever read them. But I know one thing for certain. For the first time in my entire life, when I wake up in the morning, the first person I take care of is me. And the salt air tastes like freedom. Some people say blood is thicker than water. They're wrong. The full quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." I chose my covenant. I chose myself. And if that makes me a bad mother, then I finally learned how to be a good one to the only person who was ever guaranteed to have me for life, me. Thank you for listening to my story. If it helped even one person stop writing checks with their heart, then every tear was worth it. Now, if you'll excuse me, the tide's coming in, and I have a date with the sunrise.